Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was one of the most influential black artists of the 20th century, yet his career was nearly destroyed when Hollywood and the United States government turned against him. He was born in 1898, excelled at Rutgers as class valedictorian, and later earned a law degree at Columbia. Instead of practicing law, he became internationally famous as both a singer and an actor. His performances in Othello and his rendition of Old Man River made him a household name. Robeson also became an outspoken advocate for civil rights, labor movements, and decolonization, which placed him under political scrutiny. In 1950, the State Department revoked his passport, preventing him from traveling abroad to perform. This move cut off his income and erased the international tours that had sustained his career. Sponsors distanced themselves, concerts were canceled, and Robeson's reputation was targeted. He was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1956, where he refused to denounce his beliefs. The FBI kept extensive files on him, adding to the pressure. In 1958, the Supreme Court ruled that passports could not be denied for political opinions, and Robeson regained his right to travel. His story stands as one of the clearest examples of Hollywood's blacklist, silencing a powerful black voice. Canada Lee. Canada Lee was one of the most important black actors of the mid-20th century. Born Leonard Kanagata in New York in 1907, he became part of the Federal Theater Project and gained prominence in serious drama. His breakthrough came in 1941 when he played Bigger Thomas in the Broadway adaptation of Native Son. Critics praised the performance as a new standard for how black life could be portrayed on stage. Lee believed that an actor's voice had to serve the struggle for justice. He supported the Fair Employment Practices Commission, allied with labor organizations, and lent his reputation to civil rights causes. During the Cold War, these associations attracted official scrutiny. The FBI opened a file on him, and his name appeared in anti-communist pamphlets circulated in the industry. Sponsors and producers began to avoid him, not because of talent, but because of political suspicion. By the early 1950s, his career was under severe pressure. He struggled to find film or theater work, and he faced questions from Congress about his political beliefs. Lee was scheduled to appear before the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1952, but he died suddenly at the age of 45. Biographers and historians argue that the stress and financial strain created by blacklisting contributed to his early death. Hazel Scott. Hazel Scott was an artist whose career demonstrates how the blacklist silenced black performers in the mid-20th century. She was born in Trinidad in 1920 and raised in Harlem, where her extraordinary talent as a pianist earned her admission to Juilliard at a young age. Scott combined classical training with jazz interpretation, building a reputation as a virtuoso who could move seamlessly between genres. She became a celebrated stage and film performer and was admired for her refusal to accept demeaning roles. In 1950, she achieved a milestone when the Dumont Television Network offered her a nationally broadcast program. The Hazel Scott Show was a short, 15-minute variety program built around her music. With this role, Scott became the first Black American to host her own network television show. It was a cultural breakthrough at a time when representation on television was extremely limited. Her success was short-lived. On June 22, 1950, her name appeared in Red Channels, an anti-communist pamphlet that listed suspected sympathizers in the entertainment industry. Scott had supported some progressive causes in earlier years, and in the political climate of the Cold War, that was enough to place her under suspicion. Once her name appeared, sponsors began to withdraw, and her show came under immediate pressure. Determined to clear her record, Scott voluntarily testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee on September 22, 1950. She denied Communist Party membership and explained the context of her past associations. Her testimony did not restore commercial confidence. Within a week, her program was canceled for lack of sponsorship. The consequences for her career were devastating. Concert bookings declined, radio networks turned away, and her visibility in the United States collapsed. Scott eventually moved to Paris, where she continued to perform successfully for many years. Historians now view her story as one of the clearest examples of how the blacklist worked. It was not only a political purge, but also a tool that erased opportunities for black performers who had fought to open doors in a segregated industry. Lena Horne. Lena Horne was born in 1917 in Brooklyn, began in chorus lines as a teenager, and quickly rose to prominence as a nightclub star. By the early 1940s, she had signed a long-term contract with MGM, becoming one of the first black performers in the studio system to receive such recognition. Her beauty, charisma, and voice made her a natural star, yet Hollywood repeatedly restricted her roles. The studio often filmed her musical numbers in a way that allowed them to be cut from Southern releases, which meant her presence was minimized for audiences in segregated markets. Horne also spoke openly about inequality. She protested the treatment of black soldiers during USO tours and aligned herself with civil rights causes at home. At the same time, she attracted the attention of federal agencies. FBI records show she was under long-term surveillance, with reports describing her as sympathetic to left-wing organizations. The combination of commercial racism and political suspicion narrowed her opportunities in film. By the late 1940s, she was appearing less often on screen and relied more heavily on nightclub performances, recordings, and Broadway stages where she had greater control over her image. She later became a prominent figure in the civil rights movement, participating in the 1963 March on Washington and speaking out against segregation in the industry. Although her career survived in music and theater, Hollywood largely abandoned her during its most powerful years. Decades later, she earned renewed acclaim with her one-woman show, Lena Horne, The Lady and Her Music, which secured her place as an American icon. Her experience was not a blacklist in the formal sense of being named before a committee, but it was a practical form of blacklisting created by racial prejudice, political surveillance, and an industry unwilling to support outspoken black talent. Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte's life shows how the Hollywood blacklist often worked quietly, using fear and financial pressure to sideline outspoken black performers. Born in Harlem in 1927, Belafonte rose to fame as both a singer and actor. His 1956 album Calypso became the first LP in history to sell 1 million copies, and he quickly followed this with acclaimed roles in films such as Carmen Jones in 1954 and Island in the Sun in 1957. At the height of his popularity, he seemed destined to become a lasting fixture in Hollywood. That rise was interrupted by politics. Belafonte was mentored by Paul Robeson and shared his commitment to social justice. During the Cold War, this association drew suspicion. Though he never joined the Communist Party, he was viewed with distrust, and in the climate of the Red Scare, even perceived sympathy for left-wing causes was enough to trigger unofficial blacklisting. Advertisers and studios grew cautious, and some of his television specials lost sponsorship when networks objected to his insistence on showing integrated performances. Belafonte responded by creating his own opportunities. He founded Harbell Productions and produced films like Odds Against Tomorrow in 1959, which directly addressed racism in American life. Although he lost some of the mainstream roles offered to other stars of his era, he gained creative control and refused to compromise his values. At the same time, he became one of the most committed activists in the entertainment industry. He helped raise bail for Martin Luther King Jr., funded the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and supported the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He played a major role in organizing the March on Washington in 1963. Later, he extended his activism globally, working against apartheid and supporting humanitarian causes such as UNICEF and the We Are the World project. Belafonte's career demonstrates how the blacklist operated against black performers who combined fame with activism. He was never formally accused before a congressional committee, but he was quietly denied opportunities through commercial and political pressure. He built a legacy that outlasted the blacklist itself and stands as a model of artistic courage. Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis. Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis stand as one of the most significant artistic and activist partnerships of the 20th century. Both actors rose to prominence in the 1940s and 1950s, admired not only for their stage and film performances, but also for their unwavering political commitments. Ruby Dee built her reputation through the American Negro Theater and gained national attention with roles in the Jackie Robinson Story in 1950 and in Anna Lucasta. Ossie Davis, already establishing himself as a playwright and performer, married Dee in 1948, and together they formed a creative alliance that blended artistry with social justice. The Cold War soon changed the trajectory of their careers. In the early 1950s, both Dee and Davis were identified as suspected communist sympathizers. They were summoned before the House Un-American Activities Committee, and once their names were connected to the Red Scare, their opportunities in Hollywood shrank dramatically. Film and television offers fell away, and sponsors distanced themselves, not because of talent, but because of political suspicion. This was blacklisting in practice, even without a formal conviction or ban. Rather than retreat, they adapted. They began performing readings of Black literature at schools, churches, and union halls, keeping their voices alive in spaces that welcome them. At the same time, they deepened their civil rights work, joining organizations such as CORE, the NAACP, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Both served as MCs at the March on Washington in 1963, and Davis later delivered the eulogy at Malcolm X's funeral. Their artistic and political lives were inseparable. Over time, recognition returned. They earned numerous honors, including the Kennedy Center Honors and the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, cementing their place as cultural icons. Yet their story underscores how Black performers who aligned with justice could be marginalized by Hollywood. They were not excluded for lack of talent, but because they refused to separate their art from their conscience. The legacy of Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis proves that the cost of blacklisting was high, but so too was the moral authority gained by refusing silence. William Marshall. Born in Gary, Indiana in 1924, Marshall developed his craft at the Actors Studio and went on to earn roles in celebrated theatrical productions. He appeared in Carmen Jones on Broadway in 1944 and gained further recognition in The Green Pastures, cementing his reputation as a serious and talented actor. By the early 1950s, Marshall was poised to become a major figure in American television. He starred in Harlem Detective, which broke ground as one of the first television dramas to feature an interracial detective duo. The show carried enormous potential, but its run was abruptly cut short. Producers suggested that Marshall's departure was linked to upcoming film commitments, yet Marshall himself revealed a different truth. He had been named as a communist sympathizer in Counterattack, a newsletter tied to the broader anti-communist hysteria of the Cold War. That accusation alone was enough to end the show, making Marshall another victim of Hollywood's unwritten blacklist. Although this cancellation damaged his momentum in the industry, Marshall refused to be silenced. He pressed on and secured work across television and film. He appeared in popular series such as Danger Man, Bonanza, Star Trek, The Man from UNCLE, and The Wild Wild West. His artistry extended beyond acting, and he earned 2 local Emmy Awards for his work on the PBS production as Adam Early in the Morning. Later, he became widely recognized by a younger generation as the king of cartoons on Pee-wee's Playhouse. Fredi Washington. Fredi Washington's career is a powerful reminder of how racial identity and political suspicion worked together to silence Black performers in Hollywood. Born in Savannah, Georgia in 1903, Washington came of age during the Harlem Renaissance and began her artistic journey with stage performances before transitioning into film. She gained early recognition in Black and Tan in 1929 and achieved her most iconic role in Imitation of Life in 1934. In that film, she played Peola, a light-skinned Black woman who attempts to pass for white. The role made a cultural impact, but it also led to typecasting and restricted her chances at future roles. What set Washington apart was her refusal to deny her identity. At a time when the industry pressured light-skinned Black performers to pass as white, she made her stance clear by stating, "I am a Negro and I am proud of it." This refusal to conform limited her career in Hollywood, but it also elevated her as a figure of pride and resilience. In 1937, she co-founded the Negro Actors Guild of America and became its first executive secretary, advocating for better representation and fairer treatment of Black performers. She also used her voice as a journalist for The People's Voice, where she wrote cultural critiques and supported civil rights causes such as the dire anti-lynching bill. Her activism drew the attention of federal authorities. During the 1940s, the FBI monitored her work after she spoke out against segregation in entertainment and the military. In 1950, her name appeared in Red Channels, a publication that accused numerous artists of communist sympathies. Though Washington had not committed any crime, the listing marked the end of her journalism career and further reduced her opportunities. Despite these barriers, Washington's legacy endured. She was inducted into the Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame in 1975, received the Circa Lifetime Achievement Award in 1979, and was honored by Audelco in 1981. She passed away in 1994 at the age of 90. Her career demonstrates how blacklisting combined with racism erased opportunities for many artists. Yet her refusal to hide her heritage and her advocacy for others ensured her place as a cultural pioneer who chose integrity over compromise. Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt's life shows how speaking boldly against power could trigger blacklisting even without a formal ban. Born in South Carolina in 1927, she rose from poverty and hardship to international fame as a singer, dancer, and actress. In the 1950s, she became a household name through songs like Santa Baby and C'est Si Bon, while her performance as Catwoman on the Batman television series established her as a pop culture icon. Her career took a sudden and devastating turn in January 1968. Kitt was invited to a White House luncheon hosted by First Lady Lady Bird Johnson to discuss juvenile delinquency. When the conversation turned to the challenges facing America's youth, Kitt rejected polite answers and spoke directly about the Vietnam War. She told the First Lady that young people rebelled because their brothers were being sent overseas to be shot and maimed, and she dismissed beautification programs as superficial compared to the urgency of ending the war. Mrs. Johnson reportedly cried at the exchange, and the press quickly spread the story across the nation. The backlash was immediate. Kitt was branded unpatriotic and un-American. Nightclubs canceled her bookings. Television networks refused to hire her, and her once thriving U.S. career collapsed almost overnight. Declassified documents later revealed that the CIA created a dossier attacking her character, labeling her with defamatory terms such as a sadistic nymphomaniac. These personal smears underscored how the government weaponized public opinion to silence critics. Rather than disappear, Kitt took her talents abroad. She performed successfully across Europe and Asia, keeping her artistry alive even as American stages closed their doors to her. In 1974, she returned to the United States, giving a celebrated recital at Carnegie Hall. Soon after, she reclaimed her Broadway presence with the musical Timbuktu, which earned her a Tony Award nomination and confirmed her resilience. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. is remembered as one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century, but his story also reflects how Hollywood could quietly sideline even the most talented black performers. Born in Harlem in 1925, Davis entered show business at the age of 2 as part of the Will Maston Trio. After serving in World War II, he gained widespread recognition through Broadway, films, and nightclub performances. A serious car accident cost him an eye, but his recovery only strengthened his determination. By the 1950s and 1960s, he was one of the most prominent members of the Rat Pack, sharing stages with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, while building a career that spanned music, film, and television. Despite his achievements, Davis faced challenges that curtailed his opportunities. In 1960, he married Swedish actress May Britt at a time when interracial marriage was still illegal in many American states and considered socially unacceptable. Studio executives and powerful figures in the entertainment industry reacted with hostility, warning that the relationship could hurt both of their careers. He even faced coercion to stage a short-lived marriage with a black woman to quiet public outrage. Most notably, he was disinvited from President John F. Kennedy's inauguration gala, not because of his talent, but because his marriage to a white woman was viewed as a political liability. Davis also attracted scrutiny from the government. The FBI monitored him closely because of his civil rights activism and his political influence. While he campaigned for John F. Kennedy, his later decision to support Richard Nixon in 1972 angered both his black audience and many liberal allies. These shifts, combined with FBI surveillance, contributed to a quiet withdrawal of opportunities in Hollywood. Although he was never formally blacklisted, Sammy Davis Jr. became the victim of a softer form of exclusion. He remained successful in Las Vegas on television and in live performance, but his Hollywood trajectory was limited by forces beyond his control. His story shows how racial prejudice, political pressures, and cultural policing could work together to sideline even the brightest stars of their generation. John Randolph. John Randolph was a talented American actor whose career faced severe challenges because of political suspicion in Hollywood. Born in 1915, Randolph built a strong reputation on stage and screen. He was known for his versatility and powerful performances, earning respect from audiences and critics alike. His career promised lasting success, but the political climate of the 1950s directly interfered with his opportunities. During the height of the Red Scare, Randolph and his wife were called before the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1955. The committee investigated individuals in the entertainment industry who were suspected of communist affiliations. When questioned, Randolph and his wife refused to answer and invoked the Fifth Amendment, a legal protection against self-incrimination. This refusal, although legally justified, led to immediate consequences. Hollywood studios viewed them as risky to employ, fearing backlash from government authorities, sponsors, and the public. As a result, Randolph and his wife were blacklisted. The blacklisting had a clear effect on Randolph's career. Film and television roles became scarce, and major projects avoided hiring him. Despite this, Randolph did not give up. He shifted his focus to theater, where he could continue performing. Over time, he maintained his skills and reputation, taking smaller but meaningful roles that kept him connected to the craft he loved. His persistence eventually led to a gradual return to film and television in the 1970s, proving that talent and resilience could overcome the long-term effects of political exclusion.